Hello, I'm Brandon Burns, aka Rowdy Ruffman from YouTube, and you're about to watch Jammin' Music Man. He's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Isn't that right, Elvira?
What's up, guys? It's me, Jammin' Music Man. Welcome to my special new video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys my top 5 favorite WCW Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. Now, back in the day, the Halloween Havoc pay-per-views were one of the pay-per-views that I look forward to every year that WCW did. Now, the Halloween Havoc pay-per-views lasted from 1989 all the way up to 2000, so they put out 11 of these, and I'm narrowing it down to 5, and they're not in any particular order, just my top 5 favorites. So enough of the talk. Let's see what I picked with my top 5 favorite Halloween Havoc. Alright, you guys, my first pick and my top 5 favorite WCW Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. You guys are going to laugh, but people are still talking about this pay-per-view today, and it's Halloween Havoc 1995. Oh man, this is some classic goodness. I mean, a lot of people consider Halloween Havoc 95 one of the worst WCW pay-per-views, but I actually enjoyed this show for what it is. Of course, on the show you get Hulk Hogan taking on the Giant in a monster truck match, where we would see Hogan knock the Giant off of Cobo Hall Arena. So basically, Hogan killed the Giant in the middle of the show, and then at the end of the night, in the main event, the Giant miraculously appeared to take on Hulk Hogan. And of course, it was during this match where we would see Jimmy Hart turn on Hogan to join the Dungeon of Doom. And of course, we would see the debut of the legend himself, the Yeti. And also, Lex Luger would turn on Hogan during this match. And of course, the Dungeon of Doom would wreak havoc. But I believe they awarded the title to the Giant during this match, but like on the next night on Nitro, the Giant was stripped of the title, and the title was held up, and they would have the World War III 95 60-man Battle Royal the following month that the Macho Man, he would end up winning and becoming the new WCW champion. But, you know, I was definitely watching during this time, but, you know, the main event was not the greatest main event, but they did have some pretty good undercard matches. You get Sting teaming up with Nature Boy Ric Flair to take on Flying Brian and Arn Anderson. And if you guys don't remember, back in '95, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson had their little short-lived mini feud. Of course, this is where we would see Flair turn on Sting, and we would see the reformation of one of my favorite Four Horsemen stables. Flair, Brian Pillman, Anderson, and Chris Benoit would later up join the Four Horsemen. Also, you get 2 ECW legends on the show. You get Mr. JL, aka Jerry Lynn, taking on Sabu with his uncle, the original Sheik. Now, Sabu only wrestled in WCW for maybe 2 or 3 months back in '95. And I want to say it was on the show, the original Sheik, Sabu's uncle, threw a fireball at JL, and I believe Sabu got into some trouble. That might have what caused him to be fired from WCW. Also, you get a great opening card match with the then WCW television champion Diamond Dallas Page, along with the Diamond Doll and Max Muscle taking on Johnny B. Bad. Great matchup. I actually enjoyed it. And of course, this is where we would see Johnny B. Bad become the new WCW World Television Champion. Also, you get the Macho Man taking on the Zodiac, who was originally supposed to be Kamala, but Kamala would end up leaving WCW. And you get Lex Luger taking on Ming. And if Luger and Macho Man won that match, they would end up facing each other later that night. Well, they did. And you also get Luger taking on the Macho Man. Road Warrior Hawk taking on Kurosawa. Now, I actually remember during this time, the night before, this was when the Atlanta Braves won the World Series back in '95. And it was during my dad's birthday, and I always remember it. The Braves won, and then the next night, the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view having. So I remember it just being like a real fun weekend. So that's why I kind of cherish this pay-per-view. It brings back a lot of great memories. Not the greatest show, but it was a fun time in my life. So that's why I chose Halloween Havoc 1995. Alright, you guys, my next pick in my top 5 Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. This Halloween Havoc right here is the night Abdullah the Butcher got his brains fried. That's right, Abdullah the Butcher brains were fried, you guys, live on pay-per-view. I'm talking about Halloween Havoc 1991. Oh man, classic WCW stuff right here. In the Chamber of Horrors match, we saw Sting, Elegante, and the Steiner brothers taking on Cactus Jack, the Diamond Stud, Big Van Vader, and Abdullah the Butcher. Of course, Sting's team would get the win, and that's where we would see the classic moment of Abdullah the Butcher getting his brains fried out in the electric chair. Yet again, another WCW pay-per-view where somebody has to die. You gotta love it. But you get a lot of great matches on this pay-per-view. You get Beautiful Bobby Eaton taking on the Tailor-Made Man, Terrence Taylor, a.k.a. Terry Taylor of the York Foundation. You get a heel Johnny B. Bad taking on Jimmy Jam Garvin. This one was one of my favorites from this pay-per-view for the television title. You get TV champion Stunning Steve Austin with Lady Blossom taking on Dustin Rhodes. So you get a future Stone Cold and a future Goldust right here on this show. Also, you get the finals for the WCW World Lightweight title. Richard Morton, a.k.a. Ricky Morton, taking on Flying Brian. Of course, Flying Brian would get the win. And it was during this match and the Chamber of Horrors match, I remember, I believe it was referee Nick Patrick who had the helmet with the camera on it. They called it the referee, but the way it was spelt in the graphics, it looked like referee. That's just a little joke people like to make fun of this pay-per-view, the referee. Also, you get Tom Zink taking on the mysterious Halloween Phantom. And who did the Halloween Phantom turn out to be? Ravishing Rick Rude. And it was during this pay-per-view where the seeds were being sown for the formation of the Dangerous Alliance. And the Dangerous Alliance is one of my all-time favorite wrestling factions. For the tag team title, you get the Enforcers, who were the tag champs, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, taking on the Patriots, Ty Champion and Firebreaker Chip. You know, I wasn't the big fan of the Patriots way back when, but they always reminded me of characters off of G.I. Joe. That was just me. And of course, the main event in the best of 2 out of 3 falls match, you get Ron Simmons with Dusty Rhodes taking on the WCW World Heavyweight Champion Lex Luger. And I actually enjoyed this WCW World Heavyweight title. But those are some of the classic matches that you get from Halloween Havoc 1991. Alright, you guys, my next choice and my top 5 favorite Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. The main event for this Halloween Havoc, I love it. You gotta check it out. I'm talking about Halloween Havoc 1993. The main event, you get Cactus Jack taking on Big Van Vader, the WCW champion, in a spin the wheel, make the deal match that ended up being a Texas death match. This is a brutal one. You get a lot of blood. You get a lot of hardcore action in this match. And if you remember back in 93, Vader put Cactus Jack out for many months, and it was during this time Cactus Jack had made his return to WCW, and of course Vader ends up getting the win. But it's a brutal matchup, and I recently heard on Tony Schiavone's podcast, What Happened When, that it was during this match, I believe it was Cactus Jack got some of his blood on Tony Schiavone, so that was pretty cool to hear. But the match, I love it. You got to check it out. You also get some other great matches on here. You get for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but it was during this time they weren't calling it the NWA title anymore. They were calling it just the big gold belt, because the NWA and WCW, they had like this falling out. It was kind of a weird time back in '93. But the NWA champion was Ravishing Rick Rude, and he took on the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And I believe Terry Taylor was like a special outside referee for this matchup, I believe. I actually like the whole Rick Rude, Ric Flair feud that was going on during this time. Also, you get Sting taking on Sid Vicious with Colonel Robert Parker. The Nasty Boys take on the WCW Tag Team Champions, Too Cold Scorpio and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And I believe Scorpio and Bagwell had captured the tag team titles like the night before on WCW Saturday Night. But the Nasty Boys, along with Missy Hyatt, they got the win. And, you know, if you like Missy Hyatt back when she was a nasty girl during this time, be sure to like this video. Also, you get for the WCW United States title, yet again, the U.S. champion Dustin Rhodes taking on Stunning Steve Austin. That's right. So you get a future Stone Cold and a future Goldust yet again on a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. Also, you get for the WCW World Television Championship, you get the TV champion, Lord Steven Regal, taking on one of my all-time favorites, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Also, you get Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. And also you get the Equalizer and Harlem Heat, Kane and Cole, way before they were Booker T and Stevie Ray, to take on Ice Train, Charlie Norris, and oh man, get ready, the Shockmaster. But I enjoyed this Halloween Havoc. The main event, it's a classic. You got to check it out. That's Halloween Havoc 1993. Alright, you guys, my next pick of my top 5 favorite Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. This Halloween Havoc, in the main event, we saw the first ever Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal match. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Halloween Havoc 1992. The main event, Sting taking on Jake the Snake Roberts in the first ever Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal match that turned out to be a coal miner's glove match. And of course, Sting picks up the win during this match, but in the closing moments of the pay-per-view, that's when Jake the Snake's actual snake would bite him in the face and he would run back to the dressing room. Always enjoyed that little moment right there. But it was during this time in '92, Jake the Snake was only in WCW for like maybe 3 or 4 months. I want to say this was like his last ever match in WCW, I believe. But some other classic matches you get on here. For the WCW World Heavyweight title, the WCW champ Ron Simmons taking on the Barbarian. Because if you remember during this time, Cactus Jack, he had his little stable of the Barbarian and Tony Atlas, and they were trying to take Ron Simmons out. Great matchup. Also, you get another great matchup for the NWA World's Heavyweight title. You get Ravishing Rick Rude, who was the U.S. champion, to take on the NWA champion Masahiro Chono. And if you guys didn't know, earlier that year back in '92, Chono had beat Rick Rude for the vacant NWA title at the second G1 Climax back in 1992. Because if you remember, '91, Ric Flair had left with the big gold belt. And of course, you know, they stripped it off of Ric Flair. So the NWA title was kind of in a weird state back in the early 90s. But Chono was the NWA champion during this time. And also, it was during this match, you had Harley Race and Kensuke Sasaki as special guest referees during this matchup. Also for the World Tag Team titles, you saw Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes, who were the Unified Tag Team Champions, WCW and NWA Tag Team Champions, taking on Stunning Steve Austin and Dr. Death Steve Williams. Steve Austin was substituting for Terry Gordy during this match. And the reason why Terry Gordy didn't show up for this match, because there was kind of a paid dispute with him and Bill Watts during this time, so Terry Gordy didn't even show up for the pay-per-view. That's another story. But also you get, for the United States title in a no DQ match, you get Big Van Vader, who was defending the U.S. title for Rick Rude, against the Russian Nightmare and Nikita Koloff. Of course, Vader ended up getting the win. Also, you get some other classic matches. Flying Brian taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And it was during this time Flying Brian had kind of a attitude problem during this time. He had recently turned heel. Also, you get Shane Douglas, Tom Zink, and Johnny Gunn taking on Arn Anderson, Bobby Heaton, and Michael Hayes. And also you get Eric Watts and Van Hammer taking on the Vegas Connection. But I love Halloween Havoc 92. It's one you got to check out. And I definitely love WCW back in 1992. 92 was really a great fun year to go back and watch. But that's one you got to check out, Halloween Havoc 1992. Alright, you guys, my final choice in my top 5 favorite Halloween Havoc pay-per-views, and I gotta say this one right here, it's my all-time favorite. It's my #1 choice. The first ever Halloween Havoc. I'm talking about Halloween Havoc 1989. Oh man, this is some classic stuff right here. The main event, you get Sting and Nature Boy Ric Flair taking on Terry Funk and the Great Muta in the first ever Thunderdome electrified cage match. And you get Bruno Sammartino as the special guest referee. Man, what can you say about this match? Or what can you say about WCW during this time? WCW in 1989 was classic stuff. And of course, Ric Flair, a lot of people say 89 was his best year in the business. Of course, earlier that year he had his great trilogy of matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But during the rest of 1989, he had that great classic feud with Terry Funk. But the whole Sting and Ric Flair teaming up, classic stuff. Terry Funk, Great Muta, the whole JTEX Corporation. I love all that stuff. Of course, Sting and Ric Flair end up getting the win. But man, you get a lot of great classic matches on the show. You get the Skyscrapers, Dan Spivey and Sid Vicious taking on the Road Warriors. Great stuff. You get, for the United States title, you get the U.S. champion Lex Luger taking on Flying Brian. Great match. And for any of you out there who have that loose cannon DVD that the WWE put out like 10 or so years ago, this match is on that DVD and it's classic stuff. You get Doom. That's right, the Masked Doom taking on one of my favorites, the Steiner Brothers. The WCW World Tag Team titles. You get the Tag Team Champions, the Fabulous Freebirds, taking on the Dynamic Dudes, Shane Douglas and Johnny Ace. Johnny Ace, a.k.a. John Laurinaitis. You get the Cuban Assassin taking on my man, Wildfire Tommy Rich. And it was during this time in '89, Tommy Wildfire Rich was, you know, making his big comeback in WCW. And also you get the Samoan SWAT team, Samu Fatu and the Samoan Savage taking on the Midnight Express along with Dr. Death Steve Williams. And also you get Captain Mike Rotunda taking on the Z-Man Tom Zeke. But those are all the matches you get with WCW Halloween Havoc 89. This one's my favorite. I remember renting this one from the video store way back when and seeing that VHS cover with the Road Warriors and the Pumpkins on the VHS cover for Halloween Havoc 89, and I just fell in love with it, and I've loved this pay-per-view ever since. But like I said, this is my #1 choice for Halloween Havoc pay-per-views. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give this video a like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and let me know what your favorite Halloween Havoc pay-per-view is. But guys, I'm Jammin' Music Man. Thanks for watching. I'll put a link to my Instagram and my Twitter in the description box below, so follow me there. But guys, I'm Jammin' Music Man. Thanks for always watching, and I will see you guys next time.